Not all Juncos that live in Mexico have yellow eyes, and not all of them inhabit the main continent. 150 miles west from the coast of Baja, a small island rises from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Measuring just 22 miles long by 7 miles wide, Guadalupe Island is home to a mysterious population of Juncos. Little is known about them because getting there is complicated. The only way to reach Guadalupe is to hitch a ride with the Mexican Navy from the port of Ensenada. Guadalupe and the surrounding islands are protected ecological reserves, and access is strictly limited. No civilian ships are allowed to land. The Navy makes bi-monthly supply missions to provide basic necessities to a tiny fishing village and a small naval outpost. Only a handful of biologists and conservationists are allowed to tag along, to study and protect the many endemic plants and animals found on the islands. For Dr. Ketterson, who has spent nearly 40 years studying Juncos, getting to the Guadalupe Island population fulfilled a lifelong dream. Along with her collaborator, Dr. Borja Mila, the research team set out to collect some of the first modern data and samples from the mysterious Guadalupe Junco. Traveling through the night at speeds up to 30 knots, it took nearly 24 hours of nonstop sailing before land was in sight.
The thing that blows my mind is how the Juncos got out here. So this ship is going pretty fast all night long, so we're like a couple hundred miles from the Baja coast, and it's one thing to see it on a map, but to get out here and imagine how you could have a flock of Juncos make it this far out into the ocean and then just happen to find suitable habitat to found a population is kind of mind-blowing. But if you think about the probability, millions of dispersing birds over hundreds of thousands of years, probability becomes a possibility, and hopefully we'll find them soon.
It's a very unique experience because it's getting to a very isolated place. It's a volcano that came out 5 kilometers, so it goes well into the depth. And then above that we have 1.3 kilometers, so the whole thing is 6.3 kilometers. If you take away the water, it would be much larger than any mountain in America. Getting there is very, very impressive, and you will see the trees on top of the ridge, and you will see fabulous cliffs, some of them close to 1 kilometer high. So it's fabulous, fabulous geology. Not very old, it's 8 million years old, and it's amazing what evolution can do in 8 million years old. It's more or less the age of the Galapagos, more or less the age of Hawaii. And you see what evolution does. Usually we think that it needs thousands of millions of years, but no, in 8 million years you get a lot of unique things there. You will see the elephant seals and the Laysan albatross, and then the poppies of the Guadalupe fur seal. It's an amazing thing to observe and experience.
Landing on the southern end of the island, it would still take several hours to drive to where Juncos could be found. Today, most of the island is a stunning but tragically barren landscape covered with invasive grasses. In the early 1800s, French and Russian sailors found Guadalupe covered with trees and native plants. More than 40 endemic organisms found nowhere else in the world, including flowers, birds, mammals, and spiders, once called Guadalupe home. But the introduction of goats to feed the sailors had devastating ecological consequences. With no predators, over 100,000 goats were soon running wild, stripping the island of nearly all of its native vegetation, resulting in several extinctions. After decades of battling the goats, Mexican conservationists from the NGO Conservación de Islas finally eradicated them in 2007. The heavenly setting that could once be found throughout the island is now limited to small patches of recovering habitat on the northern end.
And then once you get to the top, you won't believe it. You will be on top of the clouds, but then you will walk, and then you will have the clouds below you. So you are actually like living on paradise, and that is like being in Guadalupe. It's like being on paradise on earth. You will have the birds, the Juncos, saying good morning every morning. It's paradise on earth.
Along with a handful of other forest birds, the Guadalupe Juncos inhabit a mere 300 acres of cypress groves, all that remains of the forests that once covered the entire island. The limited habitat supports only a few hundred breeding pairs. The island is extremely dry, making the forest patches susceptible to wildfires. A single cigarette butt or wayward campfire could literally wipe out the Junco population in a matter of hours. In such a dry habitat, birds are quickly attracted to even the smallest sources of water. The scientists found an abundance of juvenile Juncos, which lack the richer plumage colorations of the adults. The high number of juveniles indicates that the Juncos are reproducing successfully, despite the limited habitat and threat of introduced predators. The Juncos and other birds on Guadalupe are extremely tame, a phenomenon observed on many islands, where colonizing animals evolve in the absence of predators they left behind on the mainland. With so little known about the Juncos here, the team set out to collect basic information on the birds' physical characteristics, behaviors, and songs. And importantly, blood samples were collected for a long-awaited genetic analysis of the Guadalupe Junco's evolutionary history.
We made it to the island of Guadalupe of Baja California, and this is an endemic Junco race. We don't really know yet if it's a race or a separate species. That's what we're working on, but very brown, no red on the back. That's new. One difference though is the bill is much longer and pointier than in the other species in the mainland, and we have quite a bit of white compared to the races in Guatemala and Chiapas. So this would be more similar to the dark-eyed Juncos in the north, and it has a dark eye. So this is supposed to be a race of the dark-eyed Junco. Now we're gonna do the genetic analysis to figure out exactly what it is.
Until recently, the origin of the Junco on Guadalupe has been an unsolved mystery. Their feather coloration is most similar to the pink-sided Juncos in the Rocky Mountains, and they have dark brown eyes. Both feather color and eye color have led to the classification of the Guadalupe Junco as a race of the dark-eyed Junco species. But the DNA samples collected on Mila and Ketterson's expedition revealed that the Guadalupe Junco is most closely related to the Guatemala Junco in Central America, which has a yellow eye. This finding reveals how physical traits like eye color or feather color can sometimes be misleading in understanding evolutionary relatedness. The analysis also indicated that the Guadalupe Juncos were highly differentiated genetically and should be classified as an independent species. Gaining status as a unique species could help this critically endangered population to receive further protection and conservation. An important future research goal is to understand how natural selection may have shaped the evolution of the Guadalupe Junco's unique characteristics.
So, well, we've been trying to come up with an explanation as to why the Guadalupe Junco has this very pointy bill. It's much longer, the culmen is much longer, and it also has this very pointy at the end, to the point that the upper mandible sticks out over the lower mandible in many cases, which, you know, it looks like a forceps type bill, you know, what you would see in birds that feed on pine seeds, for example. Obviously, there's this very strong association with the cypress forest here in Guadalupe, and most of the seeds that are available to the Junco come from these structures. So the seeds are held inside these pods that they open when they fall to the ground and dry up. So when they're in the tree, they're completely closed. They look like this, and then they would open a little bit, and then eventually they open completely, and the seeds fall out. So it would be really interesting to see if this has something to do with the shape of the bill, because that would be evidence of adaptation to this habitat, and that would explain this morphological feature of the Guadalupe Junco.
Guadalupe Island's beauty is rivaled only by its fragility. While the expedition raised dozens of questions for future research, we can only hope the birds and their tiny patch of habitat will endure long enough to provide answers.